नरेंद्र मोदी जी छुप रहे हैं।
India will fight as one.
नरेंद्र मोदी जी डरे हुए हैं।
India will win as one.
India, home to the world's biggest election. 1.3 billion people, 900 million eligible voters, where voting lasts for more than a month and happens at more than 1 million polling stations across the country. The scale of what's happening is huge. But why does it matter? What's at stake? And who might be the next leader of one of the most important nuclear powers in the world? India is a republic. That means everyone gets a vote. It has a parliament. That means the political party that wins the most seats picks a prime minister who runs the country. There are literally thousands of political parties. But to get a sense of who might be the next prime minister in 2019, we'll be looking at the two frontrunners. The current Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party is the Bharatiya Janta Party, or the BJP. The guy with the best chance of pushing him out is the leader of the Indian National Congress, or Congress Party, Rahul Gandhi, no relation to Mahatma. If the BJP has been politically divisive, the Congress Party is campaigning on the idea of bringing everyone back together. But we have to start with Modi. He's been in charge for 5 years with a majority in parliament. Modi came to power promising to stamp out corruption, create jobs, and boost the economy. But he's come up a little short. India's economy hasn't stopped growing, but it hasn't met expectations that people had of candidate Modi in 2014. And Prime Minister Modi has done a few things that could cost him votes this time. A few years after he took over, Modi demonetized the Indian rupee, a government scheme to take big bills, 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, out of circulation. It was a plan to stop bribery, corruption, and counterfeiting. But the timeline was so tight and the process so unplanned that not everyone got to swap out their notes at the bank. Overall, analysts say the whole thing actually hurt the economy and caused more unemployment.
In the economic domain, I think one of his big initiatives, which is called as demonetization, has also led to a lot of turbulence, and particularly those at the lowest end of the socio-economic ladder were hit very badly.
Farming, an industry that employs more than half of the country's workforce, was hit hardest. This year, that could mean a lot of angry voters. Unemployment is a big problem too, especially among young people. The government is trying to keep a lid on official numbers, but some reports suggest that India's unemployment jumped in the last few years to more than 6%. That's the highest it's been in 45 years. The BJP has promised to invest nearly $1.5 trillion on infrastructure projects, something Modi says will help create jobs for millions of young people in the years to come. Now, you can't talk about Modi without talking about Hindutva, a nationalist ideology that puts Hindus at the top of the pecking order in India. Nearly 80% of the country is Hindu, and even though minorities account for hundreds of millions of people, the BJP has emboldened Hindu nationalists and given oxygen to some of the most extreme viewpoints in the country. And minority communities have often paid the price for it, some with their lives.
I think Mr. Modi made no bones about the fact that, or the BJP has made absolutely no bones about the fact that this is a party of Hindus. This is a Hindutva party. And therefore, they've sort of tried everything in order to make sure that this particular ideology, the Hindutva ideology, is mainstreamed in the Indian political discourse. And this has implications for India's minorities, Muslims in particular.
It has to be said, violence against minorities has gone up on Modi's watch. The government's own data shows that communal violence went up 28% in the years immediately after Modi was elected. One of the ways that's played out on the street is so-called cow lynchings. Hindus consider cows to be sacred, and their slaughter is forbidden in most of the country. Vigilante mobs have viciously attacked and even beaten people to death on suspicion of dealing in cow meat. Victims are mostly Muslims or Dalits, lower caste Hindus. According to a Human Rights Watch report, between May 2015 and December 2018, at least 44 people, 36 of them Muslims, were killed across 12 Indian states. Hundreds of people have also been injured in dozens of incidents across the country. Now, Modi himself has condemned cow lynchings, but according to Human Rights Watch, political leaders of Hindu nationalist groups, including elected BJP officials, defended the assaults.
I would say that those people who have engaged in such acts have interpreted this as the equivalent of the tacit approval of the political leadership in India, and therefore the impunity, the index of impunity has increased.
Demonetization, unemployment, communal violence. These things might hurt Modi's party at the polls, but what might help is his tough take on, you guessed it, security. When in doubt, the best friend of any leader in trouble is to play the tough guy card. And that's exactly what Modi did when a suicide attack killed 42 paramilitary troops in Indian-administered Kashmir in February. India blamed Pakistani-backed fighters. Tensions went up at the border yet again between two nuclear rivals. India carried out an airstrike on Pakistani territory. Pakistan shot down an Indian plane. An Indian pilot was taken prisoner and then returned. All this in the space of a few days. Both sides spun the story their own way, but for Modi, it was high-stakes military and political drama, and he made a meal of it.
मैं आतंकी संगठनों को और उनके सरपरस्तों को कहना चाहता हूं कि वे बहुत बड़ी गलती कर चुके हैं। बहुत बड़ी कीमत उनको चुकानी पड़ेगी।
Modi has also announced that if re-elected, his government would strip special rights from the residents of Indian-administered Kashmir. This includes giving non-residents the ability to buy property there. That could change the demographics of the region and spark further unrest. Modi's Kashmir policy and being tough on Pakistan plays perfectly to his base. But it might be a perception versus reality thing, because experts say if the goal of security is to stabilize, Modi hasn't actually done so well.
The Indian part of Jammu and Kashmir, the violence, if you look at the trends in violence since 2014 when he took charge of the prime ministership in Delhi, it has spiked drastically in many ways. You're also looking at ceasefire violations between India and Pakistan having gone up so drastically in the last 4.5 years.
In the end, all that might not matter. Just looking tough might be enough to get Modi re-elected. And if Narendra Modi is the man with everything to lose in this election, his main rival Rahul Gandhi has everything to gain. Gandhi is the son, grandson, and great-grandson of Indian prime ministers, the scion of a political dynasty, the leader of a progressive party controlled by one family. The last time Congress Party won, his mother was leader and hand-picked the prime minister. So Gandhi is banking on the language of inclusiveness to help him get his party back on top.
कांग्रेस पार्टी देश को जोड़ने का काम करेगी, देश को एक साथ लाने का काम करेगी और जो हमारा नेशनल और इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी है उस पे हमारा जबरदस्त फोकस होगा.
Gandhi is promising jobs, healthcare, justice for hate crimes, gender equality, even more military spending, but demilitarizing Indian-administered Kashmir, focusing instead on dialogue as a pathway to stability. The list goes on, all to sell the idea that the Congress's ideology of celebrating India's secularism and diversity instead of demonizing minorities is what the country is all about.
The Congress Party has released its manifesto, and it's a very, very progressive, forward-looking manifesto, I must say.
But will voters buy what Gandhi is selling?
The Congress as a party has not been able to infuse that kind of enthusiasm and confidence in the Indian voter that they are a credible alternative.
If Congress does manage to win, they'll be inheriting a country primed for more sectarian violence. After all, Hindu nationalism has enjoyed half a decade on the main stage, celebrated by a party that leaned into the things that made Indians different. If Modi and the BJP come back to power, it will likely reinforce Hindu nationalists who'll have the chance to push their ideology for another 5 years. But at the end of the day, this election is probably going to come down to the same thing that elections all over the world always come down to: the economy. If you think about it, millions of people living in the world's biggest democracy can't find jobs, can't feed their families, can't see a bright future. Millions are staring down the road seeing nothing but abject poverty for generations to come. So those folks are probably going to be thinking at the voting booths, which one of these guys is going to help me put food on the table and money in the bank?